Billy Moore, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
It's a pleasure.
So often people will do a huge intro and you're a multifaceted person. You're known under lots of different things, the author, the podcaster, you've been in movies, you are a cancer survivor, you're a carer, a supporter, you've got all these different roles. But my question to you is, who is the Billy of today?
You know what, right? It's like I like the fact that you've started that intro sort of in that fashion, because if someone says to me, what do you do? I go, well, it's like...
Hard to describe.
Yeah, because I can say, I'll do a podcast, I've written a couple of books, I've been, in a movie, I do a little bit of this with kids in the community. So it's like there's loads of different areas where, I feel like I can value myself. But who am I today? I'm just a dad who's, I'm not just, I know what I mean, it's a big, it's a big role to have, because I remember growing up and my dad, not being the role model I wanted. And I kind of felt that was contributing to who I became. Mm-hmm. But now I feel it's like, it's so I feel like I'm an older dad, but I'm a dad who can kind of nurture, his two children.
Love that. And we were talking just before we started recording about the fact that your two children are effectively miracles.
Yeah.
Because, as I mentioned, you were a cancer survivor. 2016, you were diagnosed with stage 3 cancer.
Yeah.
Were you told that you were likely not to have children?
Yeah, because they said to me, would you like to freeze your sperm cells? And I was like, look, I'm like 40 something now. I said, I'm in addiction. I've got stage 3 cancer. I'm not even in a relationship. I didn't think it was going to be possible. I'd lost hope through, a trail of girlfriends and destruction, that I'd kind of had abortions and never really managed to keep any kind of healthy relationship going anyway. So I gave up. So when he said that, it was like, okay, that's it then. Total acceptance, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
It was something I always wanted. Because I always thought if I had kids, it'd stop me from doing, the things I was doing and stay on the right path. But I now know in hindsight that wouldn't work, you know what I mean?
And it's happened at the right time, and you've now got these 2 lovely little boys, and they're obviously...
Albie and Bobby Moore. Yeah.
Albie and Bobby Moore. Mm. And I love that, because obviously you touched upon your dad. You grew up in a family where your dad was both a role model, but also, a really tough person for you to grow up around. Do you think it's a good thing that you waited until later in life so that you could be the nurturing father that you are?
Yeah, and look, I wasn't around. What was more important to me at the time was like using drugs, getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. That's all I did. I lived to use and used to live. It was the most important thing in my life, before anybody else. Family came second best. I put myself very, first, and it was so looking back now, definitely.
And so you've touched upon the fact that obviously you were an addict for a really long time, on and off. So we're coming up to the 7th year anniversary of you being clean and sober, is that right?
Yeah, it's clean. I never mentioned sober because it's like, I'll say this because clean and sober. It's like someone said to me once, when I heard them say, they went, oh, we're clean and sober. Someone said, so that means like you could be an outstation and a dog at the same time? Or can you be clean but drunk? Or using but sober? So it was like, okay, just clean, Bill. Just keep it simple. So I'll just that's how I describe it. Because otherwise you're separating two illnesses, I'd say. One's alcoholic and one's like narcotics. So for me, it's 7 years clean, abstinence from all mood and mind altering chemicals, which is a miracle, in itself on a daily basis. In the beginning, it was a battle, it really was. There's been a few relapses in the 20 years when I first came into my recovery journey. It was like as if my path hasn't been straight. There's been a few.
Well, I think that's also a lesson for so many people, because everyone assumes that the path's going to be straight no matter what it is, whether it be in terms of recovery for you, whether it be in setting up a business, whether it be in, creating a life. We all just think, ducks are in a row and this is the way it's going to be. And the life that you've experienced has led you to the person that we are today. Because one of the things that I've noticed about you, well, there's two main things. One, you're really, really humble in what you do. When people say, oh, you've done this and you've done this and you've done this, I always seem to think that you look uncomfortable, like you don't like your accolades being showcased to you. But secondly is that a lot of people do what they do to live an amazing life and to tell people how wealthy they are and for all about the money. And that's one thing that you never focus on. One thing I've noticed about you is you're all about helping and supporting people, but it's never about the look what I've achieved, look at what I've done. Is that a conscious decision or is that just...
I think that's learned over years. I think I've seen so many people who have got like low self-esteem shout at the top of the rooftops about what they've got, you know, what they're driving, you know, what they're wearing, what all these are going on. It's all a show for Facebook and social media, you know, the smiles, you know, we're all guilty of putting a smile on Facebook or social media.
All we ever see is the happiness, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd cringe. If I was saying, oh, lad, I'm loaded on that.
Look at what I've got.
Look what I've got here, look what you haven't got. And I think, I see it and I think, nah, you know, you suffer. Now, there's a particular individual who's on social media who likes to bang on about his money and his wealth and, you know, and he likes to flash it. And I think to myself, I've had a little bit of an argument with him in the past and I thought, mate, you know what? You are so insecure that you need to be validated. You need people to, the likes is what you need and the comments and all that validation because you've got a hole and you're just suffering. And that's what I was like. And it's not that I'm judging.
You can see it though.
I never had nothing. Never have, never. And to be fair, it's like, you know, memories are more valuable than you know, materialistic things, I feel.
I agree completely. I turned 40 last year and I got asked what I wanted and I said memories and photos because they're the two things that you're always going to take with you. And obviously, you know, we're going to touch upon that because you live this really humble lifestyle. You do a lot for the community. You've recently just done, was it 100k bike ride that you did, raising funds for your brother. We're going to come on to Joe as well because he's a Liverpool legend in his own right. But let's go back to where you mentioned it's 20 years since you started your kind of recovery from drink and drugs. It was in your teens that you started first taking drugs, was that right?
Well, I started taking drugs like before I was even a teenager.
Really?
Like my auntie used to come down to my mum's with temazepam tablets because he was on medication. They were like eggs, you know. And I remember she gave me one when I was about 8, 9. And
for what purpose? I'll have one of these.
Well, she was a terrible alcoholic. She was a kleptomaniac. She'd always been getting arrested for shoplifting. She was great. She was a character, you know, and she'd turn up and she'd, you know, and I remember she gave me one. It was like a 10 mil or something. And I took it and I started to like wobble. I was like, whoa, I like to feel it. Like, whoa. It took me away. It took me away from the moment and the atmosphere of the house. And then when she came down, I used to like take them out of a bag and that. And then it was something else. And then it kind of like, that stopped. It wasn't like I was in the grip and that was it. It kind of like, it was just a period. She'd only ever turn up every so often. It wasn't all the time. She lived up the way. But, you know, started like joining boxing and, you know, he enjoyed the sport. I wanted my dad to support me and acknowledge me. So I'd done it sort of to show him, you know what I mean? And to receive the love from him as well at the same time. But, you know, the attention was sort of brushed aside. I wasn't really showing that kind of initially until I started winning fights and then he turned up and then it was too late because I'd already gained a little bit of confidence. I was getting approval from other people. You know, I had other role models. I had a coach, I had a trainer, I had friends in the gym. My dad then was like, it was just too late. You turned up too late. You know, you've destroyed my youth, you know, from an early age with your violence and your physical kind of abuse. And, you know, I was subjected to, my mum was subjected to, and I didn't understand anything about ACEs, you know, the adverse childhood experiences from until years later, and realised that the contributing factors that led to who I was and what I became and the way I behaved was because, you know, it was all about the fear. And I was trying to mask it all and bury it and suppress it. And I'd use anything to block it all out. But then it's surface again when the drugs evaporated or they were non-existent, you know what I mean? When they're
So
gone.
were you just constantly chasing that kind of escapism?
I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah. It sounds like you've done loads of work on yourself to understand that, because a lot of people don't know what it is that they're running away from. You're talking about, you know, the things that you identify with in other people. You can see that there's a void they're trying to fill. They're looking for help and support. And do you have any anger or frustration around that, or have you kind of made peace with it? Because there's a lot of people who would be, you know, furious, and because you've identified they were the contributing factors to you taking, you know, one path when you could have taken the other fork in the road.
No, it's like you've got the key is acceptance. It's empathy and understanding, and sort of putting yourself in someone else's shoes and going, okay, so what was going on for them?
It's not an easy thing to do, though. No. So that's a huge thing.
I'll tell you when it all changed for me. Right, I had loads of anger early on, right, loads of blame. If it wasn't for you, and you know, if it wasn't for this and that, I wouldn't be in this situation, and you know, I wouldn't be in prison because of the things you know made me do, and you know, it was all that.
Yeah.
And then I went into rehab. I got clean. I was there for about 6 months, and then they gave me. It was in Bristol, and I had to go to Liverpool for the weekend. You know, home leave. It was like a little bit of trust. Go and visit your family. You know, my mum wasn't with me dad at the time, and I remember it was a Friday, landed at my mum's. Tried to do the main share in front of my old family, you know, my brothers and sisters, they were all laughing at me. Well, these your feelings now, fucking hell. You know what I mean? Didn't go down well. But my dad was always at the, you know, the top of me, like, my mind all the time. Like, you know, I hadn't seen him for a very long time. And I remember going, it was like mid-November, it was snowing, it was quite cold. I found out he'd lived in this hostel on Old Road. And I had my little niece with me. She was 5 years old. And I went up to visit him. I think it was the Saturday, you know, Saturday afternoon.
And this was when you were on leave?
Yeah, and I was leaving on the Sunday. And I just wanted to see him, you know, because he was just, you know, he was an alcoholic by this time. And it was weird because I went into this hostel and it was freezing. He was in this room with this little heater. He had this flat cap on. And he didn't look as intimidating as he did when I was growing up. And I went, all right, Dad. He went, who's that? It's me, your son, Billy. He went, oh my God, come in. So I went in with Aunt Megan, and it was mad because he looked at me and I looked at him, and for that moment, I saw all the pain, all the heartache, all the guilt, all the shame, everything in his eyes for that moment. You know, it was just the oddest, most peculiar feeling I've ever experienced, because he knew it and I knew it, and we both turned away. And I just sort of made me excuses, good to see you, and I was walking away, and I had tears like just rolling down my face, and it was like, I think it was at that moment I sort of forgave him.
Yeah.
But
nothing was said. That was literally just a look.
Yeah, nothing was said. It was just a look, and it was like I could see into his soul.
Wow.
Like the very depths, and I could see all his pain and all his heartache, and I thought, wow, he's suffered enough, you know. And then I think after that we had like a relationship for like the last 10 years of his life, which was one of just me going to his, sitting there for about an hour with no one talking.
Just literally being in each other's company?
Yeah, just sat there.
But that's
Dad. Yeah. And
that was the end of it. But that's something that you'll be able to take with you forevermore, because obviously he passed away and you've been able to make peace with that.
Yeah, because he paid for like me driving lessons, and you know, you could see he was trying to make amends.
Yeah.
He'd never say I love you. I don't love your son, you know what I mean? He was never at that. He was never at that touchy-feely, huggy type. He'd do it in other ways, and I could see that. You're all right, son. Oh, yeah, your mum told me about that girl breaking your heart there, lad. You could talk to me, you know. Oh. And he used to go, okay.
It's a different generation.
Yeah, so I used to just agree with him, and that was that, really.
And so, obviously, we talk about your upbringing. You moved into, you mentioned you'd been in prison.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom the statistic. Is it right that it's 18, 20, something like that? Prisons in 18, 20 years in total.
Oh,
that you've
20,
served. 20 years you've served in 22 prisons.
24 prisons. It was
24 prisons.
So it was like, when I tallied it up, just like, lying there, one like going, okay, my first sentence was 12 months, so that's a year. Then I got my second sentence, it was 3 years. And then I done that was another 4 years. And then I done another 3.5 years. And then I was like, I had it all together. Like, yeah, I got another 3 years there, another 2 years there. And I was like, oh my God, that's like 18, 19 years in prison behind a cell door. You know what I mean? Out of my life. And I've been to that many institutions because of me, the way I was, like fighting, or I was very volatile, very angry, reactive. I'd end up getting moved out of one prison and sent to another, and feeling rejected when they'd get me to the gate and they go, we don't want him here. I was like, well,
history just repeating itself.
Yeah.
You'd always, so have you always been chasing acceptance?
I have, yeah.
And what was the point at which, because you seem so at peace now, you spend a lot of your time helping other people. 2 questions that I want to come to around that. One, was there a particular point where it's like, I've accepted that these things have happened to me and now I've got a choice, and so I want to kind of pay it forward?
I think when it was like, I was going through like the recovery process in the early days, and he had a great counsellor who was talking about, owning my part in it, and taking acceptance of accepting like my role in life and how I reacted, and then trying to picture yourself in other people's situations. It kind of helped, how I not blaming myself, but owning parts of like the way I've reacted. So I think there was a lot of work to do. It was like a lot of therapy, DBT, CBT, the cognitive behaviour therapy, ACEs with the adverse childhood experiences, step work, writing about me anger issues, me resentments, writing about, like, I wrote a couple of books, basically, in the end, eventually, that was my life. So, I've wrote 2 books, both of them. Like, I've had 2 biographies before I'm 45.
It's funny, yeah, but you've also had a life that most people don't experience, to be in that position. Because my other question was going to be around, you talk about, you're being passed from pillar to post in institutions, feeling the rejection again of we don't want them here because, and you take full responsibility for your actions. What are your thoughts around, the kind of that culture today and what happens in prisons, and do they get enough help and support? Because you've spent some time supporting people in prisons.
So the last time I was in prison was 2018. As recent as that, right? That was I'm going to prison. I've just come out of a rehab. I've owned, like, I've been arrested. It was all over the news. It was all over the paper. It was quite embarrassing, to be fair. But he had to kind of just like admit and accept that, I've got a problem with addiction, and it took me down his path, and I ended up doing something I didn't want to do. And I found myself going to rehab, getting clean. I was paid for by these producers, which cost a fortune. So when I came out and I went to court, I thought the judge is going to see the contributing factors, the mitigating circumstances, the cancer, the addiction,
Because that's when you relapsed, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like, the fact that you haven't been in trouble for over 10 years and you've been a role model in the community.
Yeah.
You've had a brief period that's engulfed you, and you've gone full at it, and you've broken into your neighbour's house who you had a resentment with because you wanted more money. It was embarrassing. And I'm standing in the courts, and I'm thinking, there's a 90% chance he'll just go, okay.
Yeah, slap on the wrist.
Not a slap on the wrist as such, it's not going to save, it's not going to be in the public interest to put me in prison. I'm not in addiction, I'm not like...
a threat to society.
No, and I'm not a bail. I'm not... What happened was, he's looked at me previous and went, okay.
He's judged a book by its cover.
Yep, so I'm putting you in prison for 2.5 years. And I went to prison and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do here? And I stayed clean. And I helped people in there, and I was a mentor and a role model for other inmates. Which I felt at the time, it was meant to happen. It needed to be, because I needed to be removed from society. and I needed to sit down and I needed to reflect on my life. And that's when I started to write my second book, which was called Fighting for My Life. But at the same time, it gave me an opportunity to see and observe what the prison establishment was like, and it was just totally changed because I hadn't been to prison since for over what? Oh my God, it must have been about 18 years since I'd been in Bolton. So the whole process of...
So you saw a completely different side to it?
Yeah, I saw people...
Because you got no help and support in terms of rehab, etc. when you were first sentenced?
No, there was nothing like that.
Cold turkey and just left to your own devices?
There was no interventions. I had to climb on prison roofs and protest just to get some attention. And that's where it took me. Violence down a block. Just trying to remove myself from normal location and keep away from the population and just be in a cell, isolated, because I thought everyone else was the problem. If I'm on my own and I can't get on, I'm okay, right? But it was like a lonely place to be, you know what I mean, for a long time. Yeah, and when I went this time, I kind of observed and I thought, the people in prison are banged up 23 and a half hours a day. They get opened up for half an hour for the shower, this, that and the other. There's a lot of suicides. There's a lot of like violence. There's a lot of drugs. The medics or the hospital or whatever, they maintain them now on methadone, which I don't think's right, to be fair. I think they should wean them off the drug that they're on and give them a fighting chance when they get out,
rather than get them addicted to a new one.
Yeah, because okay, we'll put you on methadone, but we'll maintain you till you get out, and then you got to go back on it
on your own devices.
You're not going to change.
Yeah.
When you get put in prison, the old school, when you put in prison, you get nothing. There you go, do it. And you've got no choice, then you can get on with it. You know what I mean? Now it's all...
You talk about it so kind of calmly and so relaxed, because like that is my idea of how being on my own, I love my own company to a point, but if it was forced and being on my own, I think I'd really struggle with. I am the person who needs complete and utter freedom. I like to be able to make loads of choices, and the thought of having that taken away just... You know, it really baffles me. I can't even fathom it. But it's really interesting to hear the sides of it where it was like, actually, you were reoffending because of the addiction. You didn't want to be in there. When you were in there, you were doing whatever you could to segregate yourself from everybody else. You touched upon the fact that you are an author, and it would be remiss of us not to talk about this because both books were written during stints in prison.
Yeah, exactly,
is that because you were left with your own thoughts and it was a case of,
because I like
was
to
it
be,
therapy for you?
It was it was cathartic. I was on my own. I was thinking to myself, you couldn't invent this. I had to write these experiences down, and obviously my first book was like, it was
a phenomenal success. So much so that it was turned into a movie.
And when like I was writing that, I was thinking, I was reading bits of my book to other inmates in Wandsworth when I got repatriated from Thailand, and they were like looking at me shocked, like, whoa. And I thought, I'm not getting any identification here. I'm talking about some guy who's stabbing himself with an ice pick. He's got blood squirting out of every orifice because he's took himself hostage, like that. And trying to explain this to this guy, and all I was thinking about was, while everyone's watching him, I'll go and get some hot water. So
this we need to touch upon because you've obviously just mentioned it briefly, because that was you were repatriated after a few years, come back to finish your sentence in the UK. But this stint that we're talking about, where you wrote your first book, where you had to write everything down and get it all out of your head, it is, for those who've never read the book or those who've never watched it, was called Prayer Before Dawn. So this book was based upon your time in Thailand, and you were in prison for holding like mobile phones. What was the reason? Don't get me wrong, what was the real reason?
It was a mobile phone, but there was a lot behind it. There was like, I was involved in crystal meth, and not crystal meth as much. That was more inside prison. It was more yaba, which is a form of like methamphetamine, which is in tablet form. So because of my addiction, I'd relapsed back out. I'd relapsed in Thailand. I was out.
You were clean when you went out there?
I was clean. I worked for Sylvester Stallone.
We need to get to that. Hold on.
We'll get to that. But I had a great life initially. It was exciting. It was new. It was thrilling.
What caused the relapse?
Our relationship. Meeting someone couldn't deal with the feelings. Didn't know how to cope. The only solution I thought to the problem was to pick up a drink or a drug and mask it,
run away.
put a plaster over the pain, which, you know, you put a plaster on a disaster, that's what happens, and, you know, you still got to peel it off. And I've met this girl, it's broke down, and I've broke down with it, and I picked up a drug, and I hit the ground hard, and I hit it fast, and I'm picking up other substances that I'd never come across before. You know, I'm smoking opium, China white, yaba, which is translated as crazy drugs. So I'm taking this methamphetamine. You know, I'm buying phones, I'm selling to tourists. You know, but I'm quite, in my mind, clever. I won't get caught with drugs because I know the score, and I've been around prisons and I know where you can secrete them. So I'm quite, you know,
quite savvy with it all.
Yeah, I'm street smart. And when they came through me room door, you know, the drugs were secreted. There was a few weapons, like a gun and a stun gun and a samurai, and, you know, there were loads of phones. It was just crap all around the room. It was just a mess. And they've cut me in, and they've had me on the floor, and I'm thinking, oh, this gun and these weapons, and didn't even think about the phone, right? Wasn't too concerned about the parcels because they were plugged. And then when they got me down to the police station, and then she shoved this phone in my face. Oh, and I knew bought it off someone. It was called Laxer Khonjon, which is Thai for handling stolen goods. And I was like, yeah, and what? And he went, you steal? I went, no, I bought it off someone. He went, okay, you buy it. So in the end, I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't understand much. They were shaking me keys at me and pointing at my bike and saying I'd stole that, and I'd already bought it. It was mine, you know what I mean? It's never had the paperwork. All the other stuff got confiscated. I'd never seen that. Right? I thought, that's quite odd. That's what I was expecting to
That's the reason I'd expect to be
and then when I found out
reprimanded.
later on, like, every man and his dog's got a gun in Thailand, and it wasn't really worth a sentence, you know what I mean?
But the handling stolen goods and the phones was the reason.
Yeah, so 3 years.
God.
So 3 years for a phone. So when I went to court, I was handling a stolen phone. I was taking to the brief, and he went, oh, very serious, very serious. And I was like, well, a phone. Oh, well, I shouldn't even be here. Goes to court, rapid tie, gets spat at me, didn't understand a word. Still baffled and confused, going downstairs. Had these shackles on. I was like, in like a chain gang, following everyone else. And he was like, what happened there? And it's only until I got back, he went, oh, you're 3 years. I said, what, 3? Who, me? And he went, yeah. And I was, oh my God, you're messing.
3 years in a Thai jail. It was actually split because you were moved from one jail to another, one prison to another.
Yeah, I went to Chiang Mai for a year, and then I went to Klong Prem for 2, give or take. 18 months, give it 18 months in each.
But what you saw during that time was completely different to what you'd experienced in UK prisons.
Oh yeah, it was.
So just to put that into some sort of context, because obviously I've done my research into this and I can't even get my head around it. You witnessed rape, murder, thrown in a cell with another, what, how many? 82 a cell? 82
a cell. So this was like, for me, when I initially walking into a prison, right, I'm the only white face in a sheer brown fucking Asian faces. I'm in this compound. The whistle's blowing. I'm watching everyone and just observing what's getting, and everyone's washing themselves down. The whistle goes again, you dry yourself off. The whistle goes again, you sit down. Everything goes on this whistle. Then we're all marching to the whistle to this room. Goes in this room. Look down, and there's just a sea of faces looking up at me, and I'm just like acting hard and tough, but scared at the same time. I'm full of fear. No one speaks English. I'm getting told, yo, because they're all going to places. They all know where they're going. I'm just left at the last man standing, thinking, where am I going here? And right at the far cesspit of the pad cell was like a toilet, and there was a lady boy, and there was this like figure lying down, and it was just like a tight space. There was enough room for me. I went there and I sat there with my back against this wall, with my knees up to my chest like that, just like, fucking hell. And then I had this conversation with this lady. Well, hello, where you from? You know, and I was asking questions about, well, you know, where's he sleeping? What's going on? He's dead and we can't move him. So, you know, I had to sleep next to a guy who died. A lady boy called Tiffany with this top on. I always remember it. No money, no honey. Mad boob tube. And these little denim shorts with his crazy balls. And I was like, and she kept looking at me going, you have lovely blue eye. I was flattered initially, like, oh yeah, nice sound. But then I was like, whoa. But yeah,
so this is one cell for 80 people.
80 people, yeah.
Sharing, did I hear right? Shared, because this is my, like, sharing 2 toilets.
2 toilets, and both sort of like one, there was a left and a right one here, and there was a bin in the middle, like a black, like a dustbin, that had a little pipe that was like dripping water in it, and you'd use like a bowl to, because like the toilets aren't flushed, you just got to do the like putting the water down and sluices. So they're washing the backsides with the same bowl, brushing the teeth, washing the faces. It was just a mess, you know what I mean? There's no compartment. So when I had like, my stomach was in bed, and I remember like sitting there and just feeling so self-obsessed.
Yeah.
With like 80 people just staring at me. Thinking, I'm on a Louis, you know what I mean? And they're coming over smoking cigarettes going, hello, Farang, you okay?
Just in the middle of having a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I've got diarrhea.
I swear it was horrible. I was like,
I'm laughing at it, but this was actually real. Like, I think I'm laughing because it's so unfathomable.
It's like the height of like what's going on, but then you get used to it.
I'm sorry, but you get used to it. Hold on, we're talking about, and you just passed over the fact that there was a dead body.
Yeah,
because
he had an heart attack. He was overweight. He was.
But they left him in the cell. Yeah,
because it was a bank holiday, a Thai bank holiday, and it's just like, so for 2 days he was there, right? And I was thinking, and like, what was like very dismissive. Oh, no problem. You go Monday, bank holiday.
You'll go Monday.
Yeah, and I was like, just
my God,
this is like the way I like, and you're witnessing rape, you're seeing people having sexual activity, there's suicide. It was like there was murder. There was a lot. It was like there's a lot of inmates. Like there was like just in this this Chiang Mai itself, which was a small prison. There was 4,000 inmates just in this, and like the biggest prison in Europe was Walton, that had 1,500 inmates. So you can imagine the complex. Like Klong Prem had 20,000 because you had different prisons within the complex itself.
Compound.
Yeah, like Bombarton, the women's prison, then the hospital, and then Klong Prem and Lad Yao.
But it's the fact that you're like, you get used to it that I can't get my head around, because despite the fact that you've been in prison previously, this is something completely different.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that mentally?
Well, it's like you've got to adapt or you die. That's the way it is, the reality. You've got to adapt to the situation and your environment and just fit in and just like kind of move with it, or you're going to die. And that's.
So was a lot of it just watching what other people were doing and following suit? Because at that point you didn't speak Thai.
No.
So when you're talking about adapt or die, like you've done that to the nth degree. You learned to speak Thai.
Yeah, but there was a few. Well, not say a lot of times. A lot of times that wanted to speak English, and there was a few that spoke, like
broken English.
Yeah, but it was quite fair. Like there was the odd one or two that could communicate really well. And eventually, you're learning them and they're learning you, and they're saying to you, look, I'm going to learn you a bit of Thai, which is polite. Pool pasa Thai sapap na. So I was like, okay, because these say, look, these are feral in your cell. They're just teaching you like harsh, horrible, language. And I was learning like this, because you go, who teach you that? He said that. He said no.
So you're scared of where you'd even take it from. You don't know who to trust. You don't know what to believe.
And you say something to someone and they look at you and think, oh, I've said something nice. You're trying to set me up here, you know what I mean? So it was, You
adapted in another way though, because obviously everything was scarce. You were obviously at that point you'd relapsed, so you were an addict still and doing whatever it took to get what you needed. In addition to that, you learned to speak Thai. One of the things that I think is the book name homage to that as well, because it's called A Prayer Before Dawn, because one of the things that you did in order to survive and also make sure that you got fed, you got segregated into a smaller cell, was you converted to Islam.
Yeah. So I used to I was in a cell called it was 83, Hong 83. The cells are called Hongs. Like Hong, but our cell that I was in was called Hong Bar. Now Bar is crazy, so it was like the crazy cell. So I got put in this cell when I went to Klong Prem in Bangkok, and it was like the colour Nigerians, kid from Singapore, one Thai guy, there was a kid from Australia, a kid from Canada, myself, and it was just, there was an Indian kid, he was Chanel, I remember him, he was just a mad cell, and they were all praying to different gods. And I used to lie and just read my book, or just just look around. He'd be praying to Allah, he'd be praying to Buddha, he'd be praying to a Sikh god or whatever. And he had the Christians, then he had the atheists. And it was just a quagmire of arguments all the time because they're all trying to preach to each other. You know what I mean? There was a guy called Solomon Qurashir and Bonzo that were always fighting, but never actually physically going for it. It's
just arguments.
They're like, shoot. There were two African guys. I tell you now, I fight you now, brother. And it was just ongoing. And we used to get like tethered because of the cell. They'd always be, shut up, because that cell would be on like
the noisy one.
It was crazy. It was the crazy dude, you know. I had this Indian guy he was in for murder. And he hadn't even done it. And I believed him, to be fair. He'd met a girl, a Thai girl, and she fell in love with him. And she said he wanted a threesome. So he brought this other girl around. And she's got jealous of the other girl and killed her. Know what I mean? And then got off and left him. And he's like, so he ended up, and he was dead innocent, this kid, right? He was just dead innocent, you could see. But he used to say to me, he was just like, he was a mad sex addict. And he was just going on about like the pig farm on Valentine's Day. He said, I was like, what? He said, on Valentine's Day, we go to the big farm, jiggy with the number one pig. And I was like, is he serious? Yeah. He said, he's mad, you know what I mean? So, you know, he was forever like playing with himself. But
I'm laughing at this, but this was your life.
Yeah, but he was like so funny. I mean, if I hadn't laughed in that, I just found it really, really comical. It was just, but I needed to get out at the same time.
Well, you done. It was just over 3 years there.
Yeah.
And then you were repatriated back to the UK.
And then I done another 8 months in Wandsworth in the UK.
Well, how difficult was that going from one extreme to the other, basically? Because obviously you didn't even have a bed in your cells within Thailand. No bed, no pillow, no duvet, no covers, nothing.
You slept on blankets improvised like into a mattress. It was like, I'd say, you had to buy a blanket. The blankets were like 200 baht and you could only spend 200 baht a day. And I never even had that. So, you know, sometimes you get like prisoners abroad who give you 1,000 baht a month and you could buy yourself a blanket maybe once a month until you had them all up, and then you pay someone to stitch them and you got a mattress, and that was your ground mat, and you'd lie on that and you sleep on that, but the lights were on, so it was like sleeping with this on all night. That's, you know, it's the strobes on, and it was, you know, it was just difficult for the first initial period of like going there, but then you become used to it.
Your ability to adapt to situations, whether that be because you're so used to dealing with difficult situations, because your dad's, you know, a difficult upbringing in that way. You were the eldest of 6. You mentioned that, you know, your dad was violent to you, to your mum, etc. I can't get my head around how chilled you are when you talk about all of this. And this is why obviously the first book was made into a film, because it is unfathomable that this happened. But that's just been an ability to document your life. And then obviously worlds apart from growing up on a council estate in Liverpool to then featuring on the red carpet at Cannes Film Festival. We mentioned before, you touched upon it, but this is a whole story in itself, because when you were in Thailand, in the gym, is that where you were, where it was with someone?
Yeah. I was in the Royal Orchid Hotel in Chiang Mai, because it was like a hotel gym, but it was good. It was decent, you know what I mean? It was clean, and you know, it was cheap as well. And I was in there, his training, and I met this guy who looked very familiar. And I thought he was a boxer, because I was doing a lot of Muay Thai boxing. I boxed for England as a schoolboy, and you know, he enjoyed that kind of sport. And I ended up getting involved in a Muay Thai whilst I was over there. And while I was training in the gym, I spoke to this guy. I said, "You're a fighter?" He went, "No." He said, "I'm an actor." I said, "Why?" I said, "What have you been in?" He said, "I'm on Coronation Street." And I was like, "Oh, no."
And you recognised you from somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's probably where I recognised you. I said, not that I was a big fan of it. His name was Matthew Marston. Still a friend now, Matthew. He's, I said, "What are you doing here then?" He said, "We're making a movie, Rambo." I was like, "You mentioned this night." I said, "That's it. That'd be nice, innit? That must be exciting. What's he like?" And you know, asking questions. And he said, "Oh, he's, you know, it's great." And then a couple of days later, in the same gym, you know, this Thai casting crew came in and were looking for all non-Thais. You know, we'll just speak to Westerners. Took my name, my number, took a photograph, and promised to get in touch if there was anything on board. And then they did a few days later, called me, or a couple of weeks, can't remember how long it was, but...
You didn't believe the phone call though when you got it, did you? Did you think it was just someone taking the mick out of you?
I did actually thought it was a blag. I was like, oh, because that told everyone. I couldn't contain anything, so I told everyone about it. But someone's got this information and they're just like having a little trying to wind me up. So, an American, hey Billy, we'll meet you at the Royal Oak Hotel at 5 a.m. in the morning. We're going to be leaving on the bus, and we're going to be going to Chiang Rai. Are you ready for it? I was okay, yeah. What am I doing here? You're going to be playing Sylvester Stallone stunt standing. Oh yeah, no, that's when I knew. This is a joke. So anyway, I went along with it because couldn't knock.
There was a chance that it could be real.
So I went along.
Thank God you did.
5 o'clock in the morning, I was there, in not earlier, and there it was, the bus, and we were on it, and I met like Stallone that day, later on in the afternoon. It was, and it was great. It was an experience.
Definitely an experience. You got to be a stunt standing. You got the opportunity to be a part of. Yeah,
I worked with them for 8 months, off and on, because they were coming back and they were filming again, and it was great. I was on Unit 1, so I was always close by, He said,
you and your mate Sly.
Yeah, Sly. But his manager's a Scouser. That's why I got really. I was like a little bit more connected.
How does a Scouser become?
So Kevin King Templeton is Sylvester Stallone's manager, and he has been. He still is, and he's a self-made millionaire from Croxteth. And I feel guilty about this, but I had the Liverpool top on.
Why'd you feel guilty about it? I know why you feel guilty, but you shouldn't.
But I don't know what I had it on. Just sort of like a bit of recognition. I'm from Liverpool. And Kevin seeing it was like, hey, you're from Liverpool? I said, yeah. He said, so we started talking, and I was on his case to get a picture with Sly. I said, get a picture, come on. He said, oh, come on, Bill, come on, lad. I said, go ahead, lads, you never, same time, all that, come on, mate. Anyway, he got in touch with him, and we was in his trailer, and we were having a chat, and he came to watch me fight, and it was just great. He was still a lovely, lovely fella. He was never out of character. It was weird. He is what he is on screen as he is off set.
It's madness.
Yeah. And he's quite intelligent as well, because I was listening to what he was, he was the director as well as the producer. And he smashed it.
So we talked about book number 1, obviously then had the film based upon it. Book number 2 being more around, obviously it was 2016, you were diagnosed with cancer. You mentioned you'd just kind of given up. The reality, if you look at, go on.
See, what happened, right, I was like, I'd come back from that experience in Thailand, I'd got released, and, I ended up back in addiction, but then I managed to get into a rehab and, a detox, and find myself in a recovery process again. So I had 5 years abstinence under my belt at this time. So, with clean time comes a lifetime of goodness and material things, and you yourself a house, a car, a job. And,
you built your life back up.
So I built it up. I get a job. I'm working for the NHS full time. I've got a house, 4-bedroom house. I had a relationship with a girl who I believed I was in love with at the time, and I wasn't using. My family were phoning me up to ask me for guidance, whereas before they were shutting the door in my face, and I'd burnt every bridge, and now it's different. So everything was like everything's right here, everything's going really well, and then you get this diagnosis of cancer, and it was like, the first thing I thought of when I'd been told was, how am I going to tell my mum? That was the first thing. I could always remember it. Like, how am I going to tell my mum this? It wasn't about me anymore. Yeah. I'd learned enough about not playing a victim and having that self-centered way of thinking. It was more about being thoughtful about other people. And, I had to tell her, obviously. She didn't take it too well either. And I had to talk her down because she was quite upset. And then it was feeling numb about it, and then having a little bit of hope with treatment, and then my hair falling out, and and the medication kicking in, and then relapsing because I'm an addict, and that's what I do. If I take drugs, once too many and 1,000's never enough. And
but this came from, you'd have 5 years clean.
Yeah.
you were fit, well, healthy. Did that, because you seem so calm about it all, and maybe I'm just an angry person, but there'd be that anger for me to think, hang on, I've done everything right, I've made amends. Is this, payment for...
No, because I said to him, I've got a sponsor, and I said to him, look, I was like, why has all this happened to me? Why me? And he went, but why not you? Because it could be someone else and they could be saying the same thing. Why me? It's always going to be about someone else, but why not you? It is what it is, and you've got to deal with it and just look at kind of like managing it now. And that was how it was. Yeah, I don't think he ever, I don't know, like as I was going through it and I went on a relapse and I went from 15 stone, 16 stone to 9 stone, lost all my hair.
And it was the painkillers then, wasn't it, that were the first kind of
the painkillers were like the stepping stone, and then it was like being given a payout. I know you give me a lot of money, for the movie. I think I didn't get like 25 grand up front after the first click of the camera, and that was it. I had all this, I had access to this money, I had a bank account, I was still getting paid from work.
And you were looking for escaping again?
Yeah, and that's it. It all went on drugs. I lost everything, the house, the car, the job. The girlfriend that was with left me. The cat ran away.
Jesus, to add insult to injury, the cat ran away.
I was sitting in this 4-bedroom house with it, just on a crate in the end, with nothing.
How do you build back up from that? Because that's your speciality, something that you've done time and time again. So there you are at the, depths of despair. You've gone back you've relapsed because, as you say, I'm an addict. That's what I do. You were facing what you thought was a death sentence.
To me, right, I thought, okay, so I sort of like accepted. I mean, it's really, really strange, the feeling, accepting that your life's over and it's going to end. I've never, you've got to be in that position to get to that point of acceptance. And I had this total acceptance that I was, that it was over, and that I'd had to just, this was my demise and this is where I was going with it. And I had this calmness, really, it was like a calm feeling that come over me, and everything was okay. You
just totally accepted it?
It is what it is. You've got no money, just enjoy it now. Just spend everything you've got and have a ball and go out with a bang, Bill. Right? Get in debt. You're not gonna be here to pay the bills. And then I went to my oncology appointments. The last of my chemo just finished. I was fucked that well. I sat there, I was just like, a shell of a man. And I'm speaking to the oncologist, and he went, you know what, Mr. Moore, I'm glad to say you're going to be okay. I went, what? What do you mean I'm going to be okay? Fucking hell, I've got all kinds of fucking bills here. I said, and he went, well, at least you need to pay them, right?
Oh my God.
It was like, I was excited.
But then reality sets in.
Yeah, and then reality, obviously it sets in. It was like, and life on life terms then, and then responsibilities and being accountable, and then that, that overwhelmed me. That was like, so anyway.
How did you build back up from that?
Well, obviously I went to prison, didn't I? And then I came out and I lived on my mum's camp bed in the front room of a bungalow with a tag on. Like I said, I lost everything, but he had everything back. And this is when, I met my brother, Joe, because I had to share a bungalow with, so I had to get released from a prison. I had no address, so
they had to release you somewhere.
Yeah, my mum went, look, Mum, can you kind of come, like, let's stay home, because she knew I was clean when I went away. I'd got myself in recovery, and she kind of like she championed that, and I stayed clean right the way through a sentence, which was a miracle on its own. Every day was a battle. I mean, I've never experienced nothing like that in my life, clean inside the prison. Up against it. My girlfriend that I was with, she ended the relationship. I was in loads of feelings, but I didn't want to use it. I had no desire no more. I had that.
Wow.
I reached that rock bottom where I had no desire. I was in the most vulnerable place of my life, in a cell with someone who had drugs and I didn't want to use.
How proud does that make you feel?
Yeah, it does. It was a moment like, I can do this. And then you know, I get out to my mum's and the film I had to say to myself, look, the film's been released while you've been in jail, you know. It's in the cinema.
You missed the premiere, didn't you?
No, I missed the Cannes, but I missed the premiere in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Where was it? The Odeon. You know, I missed the premiere there.
But it's all right because it can't.
Yeah, it's through Cannes. But like I sat the night it was getting premiered in Liverpool and worldwide in my cell with a cup of coffee, Nescafe, like just thinking, you know, you've come this far and you've achieved so much to just throw it all away to be sat in a cell. Well, you know, your whole life is getting portrayed on the big screen. And I had all the prison officers like applauding me and saying to me, oh, that was because some of them went and watched it and they were like, that's amazing what you've been through. You know, what happened, Bill? And I explained and it was like, fucking hell. You know, you think they give you the chance? And I said, look, you know what, it's probably the best place for me. But when I get out, it was like, you know, it was
you got the opportunity to spend time with family then.
You know, I spent time with my family and, you know, I built a relationship with my brother Joe. You know, got to know about him and what he was about and, you know, he made me laugh and, you know, I felt guilt and shame because of all of the years that I'd kind of just like dismissed him, you know. He was just there. You know, he couldn't really communicate. He couldn't have a conversation with you the way I thought. He couldn't go crafting with you or anything. So it was just, all right, Joe, sounds like you're all right, lad. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That was as far as the relationship went. Your relationship with Joe now, though, is
he's like
unreal.
I've had arguments with him. No one knows. I've had proper arguments, and it's great. You know what I mean?
Because Joe just seems like the most chilled out person. For those people who don't know, we're definitely going to have to put links in there because there's something really important that we have to touch upon, which is like, he's got the best smile in the world. His face lights up when he talks about his caravan. So you've got to talk about why you're doing fundraising, why you've just done, because you've just done a 100-kilometre bike ride to raise funds. Why you're doing all of this for Joe, because Joe is autistic, but still lives completely manic life, completely independent. He's got multiple jobs. He's constantly busy. He is so well known in the community.
He's with his autism comes an obsessive way of thinking, you know, and like he's got these diaries that he's had for years. He's got diary after diary and he takes them with him everywhere he goes, and any kind of achievements or affirmation he gets the person to write it down in his
oh my God, I love it.
So he comes home and then he'll go, yeah, what does that say today, Bill? I'll go, Joe has been really helpful and supportive today. He's been handing out leaflets and, you know, giving up his time for the old age pensioners in the bingo clubs. And like other pages that document his whole life, you know what I mean?
There's another documentary.
Yeah, so he's got loads of these. He just gets them. He can't, because he obviously can't write himself. And he's got this obsessive way of like, you gotta be careful what you say to him because he won't forget. He's like the Rain Man, you know what I mean? He's and he'll remember and he'll remind you and he'll constantly phone you up, and I try not to give him my number. That's me. Like, because he'll just harm me. Like, I'll get like calls all the, hey Bill. And he'll wait for you to say something to me and they go, how are you? I go, all right. Any news?
I love it. But he's come on in leaps and bounds because you've been his biggest supporter and his desire to, so for those people who don't know, it's Joe's dream to own his own caravan.
It is, so but you know what, like, I mean, there's a lot of trolling that goes online. It's upsetting, but
the gobshites are everywhere.
Yeah, but so I've had these 2 books and this movie and these massive platforms, these podcasts before I introduced Joe to the people and brought them into my life.
But into your ecosystem,
yeah. Put them onto my platform and showed the world, you know what I mean? And like, you're just using your Joe, you that. Do you know what? Right, our Joe, you pull a camera out, right? He's great. He loves
such a character.
He loves it. He goes into character, and I just go, what's this, Mum? Right? Yeah, Joe, should we do a little? And he gets all ready and prepared, and he goes, I've got a speech now, and which one more thing? He's like Columbo. And I just and he's trying to say somebody will just go to something else. I've got something to say. I've never said this before. You know, this caravan. I'm like, Joe, you've said it a million times, you know, lad. Yeah, but not this way. You know what I mean? So
but it's just obsessive personality.
And it's great to see. And we've got we're on £14,500 raised, and that's by almost 1,000 donations. You know, people who support him and love him, and they I know why I need this much money, because I've had to go into research and go, okay, I said, Joe, look what we have to do. We have to get a static caravan, right? That's going to cost about 25 to 30 grand if it's new, because you don't want something like second hand, because you can only have it for so long before they sell it on or move it on. You've got to get rid. Get yourself a new one, right? Then you've got ground rent, which is like, let's cover 2 years because it's £4 a year, give or take. There's £8,000. Then you've got your electricity on top of that. So let's say you need 10 grand for 2 years, right? Overheads. And then in the meantime, what you can do, and I was explaining this to my mum and the rest, the family, he can rent it out.
Yeah.
And then he can get
it's his own little business.
Yeah, he can get his ground rent each year
covered.
So we'll have 2 years ahead, so a head start. So we'll have get a year in advance, and he'll be able to kind of enjoy a few little fish and chip shops and little walks down the beach and his bingo and stuff like that. And that's what he wants. He doesn't want to go to Dubai or New York or Paris. Doesn't want to fly around the world. He just wants to go to town.
The caravan in
the
Wales.
Golden Gate. That's his life, and that's if I can do it for him, I will. And I know it's going to take. I said to him, it's going to take about a year, maybe more, Joe. We've got so much now.
But it's using your platforms that, as you say, because you always talk about, me, and you're really humble, and the accolades, you kind of look a little bit uncomfortable when people talk about it.
Yeah.
But everything that's happened to you, I suppose, has happened for you to give you this opportunity. You've now got this platform, and, there's always going to be trolls out there who say that, but you've given Joe this platform. We've watched everything that he does. We see him going to work and the excitement that he has, the excitement of, it's just the sweetest things. He's going to buy his mum flowers, and you're giving him opportunities and paying him back for all the years that, as you say, you weren't there in his life. And I just think it's an amazing thing that you're doing.
I know, it's because, what I've always, I don't need nothing, right? I don't really, really don't know what I mean. I'm happy with what I've got, which is enough, because, before that I had nothing, and I'm not really a big fan of caravans, so like I said, I'll get claustrophobic in them, but I'll go, you know what I mean?
Just to appease him.
And I'll wind him up, and I'll say, we'll have to share a bed, which is about the same size of half a single bed.
Hey, but at least you get a mattress in this one.
But we get a mattress, but it's nice.
So what then, given everything that you've done and the, highs and lows that you've had within your life, what's next for you?
What's next? I don't know. I just think looking after my family is what's important now. Thinking of their future and paving the path for them. And that's what I've been thinking, because I'm getting to a point now, I'm 51. I'm at an age now where, the older I get, the more I think, set my kids up for the future, make sure they're okay. It's not about what I can get out of it. I enjoy little things, little luxuries, and sometimes I go for a meal, but I'm training, so I can't really eat like I used to. But when I do enjoy it, and I just don't stop, you know what I mean? Even though
have you just got a fully addicted personality? Whatever you do 100%.
Yeah, I kind of, that's why I've got a podcast called The All or Nothing. And that's the title.
Which is just exactly why, The All or Nothing. And it is an amazing podcast that you've been hosting for about, 3.5 years now? Somewhere around there?
Yeah, 3.5 years. Joe was the first guest.
And the best guest.
The best guest, yeah.
There's been some good, there's been some
You
phenomenal
know what, right,
guests.
To be honest with you,
there.
I've done it, right? I've done it in my mum's kitchen, right? I had the microphone set up. They weren't plugged in, right? But it just looked the part for him, you know what I mean? So we had the microphones put in, the lights on him, and then the camera set up, you know what I mean? On my phone.
He loved it.
And he was like, tell us your life stories, Joe. And he's got a hell of a stories to tell, you know what I mean? He'd been attacked by the police and everything when he was young, mistaken identity, my mum's had guns put to her head and stuff like that because of some of the things that I've happened through, family members and that, it's been really, it hasn't been easy, for her. Now she's got that peace of mind, and I can give her a little bit of a soul back, and, she's got that solace in her life, and that I hope that when she does, when she died, that she Joe's looked after. Yeah. I think he will, either way, whether I'm here or not. I think there's that many people out there that...
The community.
Yeah,
there's so many, that's the difference.
No one can say a bad word about him.
There's honestly no one ever does.
I get really defensive at the best of times, and I've really, I've had to kind of stop myself because I've actually phoned people up on Instagram and they've put a comment. Don't you think? And I had arguments with them. And like, want to meet you? Where are you, lad? And what are you to say, right, that I'm doing this with that? What are you on up? You don't know nothing about our relationship. You don't know nothing, lad. Yeah, you just use it. Why would I, lad? What am I getting out of it? Come on, you tell me, right? Apart from seeing him smile, right? Where are you? And then, I've got to, and then I have to talk myself down. And then I feel terrible about it because I go, why did I react like you dickhead?
But that's also because you cared about him so much, and there's so much of the past where you've missed out on, things in the past that you're creating and paving a way for him and for your 2 little boys. So that's what the future holds.
Got 4 kids though.
4 kids, yeah. So you've got your 2 youngers and then you've got 2 oldest.
My partner who is, she's amazing. She does a lot as well. So it's like, I've got a life beyond my wildest dreams. None of them have had to see me use, you know what I mean? It's good. They don't have to like, my dad was this, or my dad was a smackhead or a crackhead. Nah, they don't know that. They don't, well, they do. They will read about it.
Of course
it's
they will.
But it won't be like, they won't go.
They've never witnessed any of it.
That was like, dad, must have been someone else. Because when I watched the film, it was like watching someone else's life story.
Was it?
And I was like, oh, mate, you need to sort your head out. Watching it, going, what's
because you watch it, and it's like, that's not real. Honestly, Dylan and I were just talking before saying, you watch it and go, this bit's a bit far-fetched, isn't it? But actually it's reality. It's just completely unfathomable.
99.9% accurate apart from the ladyboy scene where John Stefan Savar, who I've got to give John Stefan a shout because he's done really well now. He's just on the back of A Pray Before Dawn, he's just released another film called Asphalt City with Ty Sheridan and Sean Penn and Mike Tyson, which is now on Amazon.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he's gone from like Johnny Mad Dog to A Pray Before Dawn, from A Pray Before Dawn now to, to casting like Mike Tyson, Sean Penn and Ty Sheridan, who were all 3
huge names,
you know what I mean? And I thought, I'm going to watch this because I know he's very visceral in the way he directs, and he likes it. He likes to be
the first hand.
Yeah, he loves it. I know the DOP as well, the director of photography is David Ungaro. He's done the same, so he's the same. The DOP for this film as well, and everything's like the camera and the chasing, and there's long. There's no like long scenes, with no edits. And I thought, it just reminds me of his style. You know what I mean? Of reality, and his films are all based on books. So it was well done, John Stefan. He's incredible. I love him. He's great.
I love that we've sat here talking about you, what you've achieved, and every single time we have, you've gone, he's done this and he's done that. You bat away the success every single time. So you should, and undoubtedly will, have an immense amount of pride. You've been, clean for the best part of 7 years now. You're creating and paving a way for your children, for the rest of your family. Look how uncomfortable you are when people do this. There is a bit of me that wants to keep doing it, because I think when do you take credit for what you've done? Because what you do a lot for the community. You're always helping, and you're always supporting, and you're always giving back. I think
I suffer with something called imposter syndrome, which is I don't feel like worthy.
You still have that?
Yeah, I don't feel worthy of affirmation when people say, "Oh, you know what I mean, you're doing really well." I'd rather like push it aside, and
I can tell.
It's like I think the ego is very, very dangerous, and years ago I had to be deflated. I remember when I first I was in a dry house, by the way, recovery house, when my first book got published. It wasn't even nowhere near going towards a movie, but I remember it coming in a box of parcel. They had about 10 books sent from Thailand, and I was over the moon, and I had to share it with these other addicts. Because I was clean and doing all the things. I was the enemy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were just like, whatever, we're just doing what we're doing. And we used to have this meeting, like once a week with he was like a therapist, a counsellor. He was like going from house to house. How he's getting on, he's all okay, how are you communicating, any issues, any problems. I had this book that had been delivered, and I was made up with him, showing everyone.
Desperate to show him.
Oh, Billy the Book was my nickname. Get on, Billy the Book, Billy the Book, Billy the Book. Oh, look what I've wrote, look at that, I couldn't believe it, you know what I mean? Look at this, I've done that. Every word I wrote myself. And there's this kid, we were doing this meeting, right, about a week later, and Brian, he's passed away now, Brian, lovely fella, he went, anyone got anyone to bring to the table, any issues, any problems? You went, yeah, this kid went, yeah, I've got a problem with him. You know, he wrote a book and he won't stop talking about it. You know what I mean? You know, and my head fell off and I thought, oh, what have I done here? Have I done something wrong? Have I said something? You know, I was quite excited here. It's like, it's nervous. You know, I wasn't like showing off. I was just really, and
it's the excitement of it.
I said to my mate's full of wisdom. He went, Bill, he said, you know what, lad? He said, what are you supposed to do? He said, you're supposed to get it and put it in the flow safe and forget about it. He said, you've achieved something.
Huge.
He said, what you're experiencing there is envy and jealousy and bitterness from people who wish they could have done that.
Yeah.
So give yourself a pat on the back, lad. You've done something. I was like, yeah. He said, if that was me, I'd be singing it from the top of my voice for the rest of my life. You weren't near the end of it. I'd be walking out. So, like, yeah.
Finding the balance.
Finding a balance. And in the beginning, I was a bit like...
Yeah, I think you've definitely gone too far on the humble side. So if you're not willing to shout about what you've done, I happily will do.
I should actually share it. Like, share these books on my platform and say, look, I've actually read, because somebody didn't even know the movie.
People don't even, exactly that. So what we'll do is we'll make sure all of the show notes have it in there. When we do the promo for the podcast, we'll add it all in there as well. All of the links to both books, so where people can obviously access it and watch the movie as well. I'm really conscious of your time because I know you've got places to go. I appreciate your time, but there's always one question I ask my guests. And my last question to you is, what is the one question that no one's ever asked you and you wish they would ask?
One question that no one's ever asked me that I wished...
Yeah, or the one subject matter that you think is really important but no one ever touches on.
I don't know, you know. I suppose
it's meant to do that to you.
I know that these questions, I always had the same, I've got a pair of wisdom at the end and it always knocks people. But the one question that, you know, I suppose it'd be, you've already asked it, really, you know, about yourself, you know.
Who are you today?
Who are you today, Bill? Where are you going to be in so many years? Who is actually behind?
Who's the person behind everything else that
and I think, to be fair, and I'll tell you why now, and it's a good question that you've asked. I remember being in this rehab for the first time, and I came in with this attitude. I had this sleep mentality. I had half a ear, a skinhead, you know what I mean? I had a bit of beef on me. I wanted to get off drugs, but I didn't want to like act. Excuse me, I didn't want anyone to see I was vulnerable. Because
you saw vulnerability as a sign
yeah,
of
because
weakness.
like there was a thin line between like showing anger and vulnerability, and I'd rather show you my anger than like a weakness as a thought. And I remember sitting there, and no one had come to visit me. I was in Bristol, no one could come travel up there. My mum was skint, you know what I mean? And I used to have a visit every Sunday, and all these people had all the families coming in, and I used to sit there, you know, and have to watch these families going by, and you know, feeling left out and a part of, and I remember this woman, she comes to see her son, and she came over to me and she said, "Can I give you a big hug?" Oh. And that's all I wanted, was someone to just acknowledge me as a person, as a human being. And she asked me that question, "Can I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Please, yeah." And it was just amazing. And it was like it was like just a loving, caring, like hopeful hug. And I was like, whoa. Oh my God, I'll never be in hell like that for a long time. But yeah, it was like just wanting to be acknowledged. Maybe that question would be like, you know, the one person, did you ever feel acknowledged?
And so obviously I'm going to ask you that question. Yeah. Do you now feel acknowledged?
I do, yeah. I feel acknowledged. I still feel like I've got a lot to deal with, like issues. Like
a work in progress.
Yeah, I am. I'm kind of flawed in loads of areas. I've realised that.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, very much so, me. I need to kind of like, I need to address a few areas, but like I kind of avoid it because it makes me it's just thinking too much. Then, you know what I mean? You're overthinking. You think you're doing the right thing, and then it complicates it instead of keeping it simple.
Yeah.
So then it becomes intrusively like.
And this is also because of your addictive personality. Yeah. So that if you're going to focus on that, it becomes a huge focus point for you.
Yeah.
What an interesting answer to that question. Thank you so much for your time today.
It's
I feel like
been a
we barely
pleasure.
scratched the surface on what we could be covering.
We could
We'll
always do
put
another
all
one.
of the links. There we go. That was my next question because it always comes out. We'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. Everyone, you need to follow Billy Moore.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate it.